Welcome to the Worth and Wealth webinar. My name's Carrie Palazzo. I work in the Office of Economic Empowerment. And just to share a couple of things with you before we start, today's presentation is being recorded and we are recording it. So later this week, you will receive an email with a recording of today's presentation, the slides from the presentation, and additional resources. All right, today we are talking about job search basics, resumes, cover letters, and interviews. Today we are partnering with JVS and MassHire for the workshop, and I just want to introduce our two speakers, and then I will hand it over to Melissa and Catherine. Melissa Vining is a senior career coach at JVS and MassHire. In her position at MassHire downtown Boston, Melissa designs and delivers daily job search webinars, manages training and professional development for staff, and oversees strategy and program operations for a team of 10 career coaches. We're also joined today by Catherine Snedeker, and she is a career navigator at MassHire downtown Boston. Catherine meets with clients for one-on-one coaching sessions, assessing their career needs and directing them to their services, workshops, and trainings. She's passionate about working with job seekers, helping them get back on track, and overcoming barriers to achieve their career goals. Thank you both for being here today. I'm going to turn it over.
All right. Thank you for having us, Carrie. I'm just going to go ahead and share. It looks like I just needed permission. Looks like it works. Okay, great. All right, so if anyone cannot see my screen, just let us know in the chat if there are any issues, but otherwise, thank you for the introduction and thank you for having us. As Carrie mentioned, my name is Melissa Vining. I'm the Senior Career Navigator at MassHire Downtown Boston, and this is our Job Search Basics webinar. So a few more things that we just want to mention before we dive in. If you experience any technology issues during our session today, we always just like to warn you that that could happen, and we want you to exit Zoom and re-enter using the same Zoom link that you used to initially come in. If you would like to see subtitles for today's session, you can activate those by clicking on Show Captions on your control panel. We do have 60 minutes to go through our content today, so we will be going through all of this information. Like Carrie mentioned, it will be shared in a follow-up email, both the recording and the slides, so you will have those to come back to in reference. If you have questions throughout our session today, we recommend putting those into the chat, and we're happy to answer those as we go along. We're not going to save them till the end. We like to hear from all of you as we go. So as you have questions, as they come up, just go ahead and put those in the chat. This is in webinar format, not meeting format, which means no one can see or hear you, but you can all see and hear us. So make sure that your chat says to everyone. If your chat says hosts and panelists, only Catherine and myself will be able to see your information, and it tends to be really helpful for others to see your questions as well. So just take a look at your chat, make sure it says to everyone, and that way we can make this a little bit more conversational. We do want to know who's in our group today, so if you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and put in the chat your city or town where you're joining us from and what kind of role you're looking for, and that way we can start to get an idea of who is here. Catherine, did you have anything else you wanted to mention?
No, we just really find it to be interesting because when we do conduct this job search basics, it is a great overview with the basic strategies. But what we also find is that there's such a variety of people. Boston, Mark is repping Boston. Terrific. Hi, Carlene. So glad you could join us. That take what we see, the strategies can work with every single role. And that's what we want to let you know. So, and we hope that this is one of a number of the webinars that you do take through Treasurer Deborah Goldberg's office with Carrie. We're so grateful that she's doing it. So we're looking. This is terrific. Thanks, everybody. Cambridge, and looking for any kind of port roles. Okay. Shakira, okay, an ACT counselor. Kwong from Boston, Director of Operations position in hospitality. Lima roles in IT. Jose from Hyde Park. So this is a great mix right away. So thanks, everybody. It sort of makes it a little less, how should we put it? I can't even think of the word in English. Isn't that awful? Or maybe a little less anonymous, because we're all in this together. So Melissa?
All right, so before we start, we just want to tell you a little bit more about MassHire Downtown Boston and our organization. And at the end of today's session, we're also going to give you some more resources and things you can take advantage of and information that's going to be helpful to you. So if you are not yet familiar with MassHire, we are one of 21 MassHire career centers across the state. If you have ever collected unemployment insurance, you probably have used services through one of these career centers. They are all called MassHire. They have similar branding, so it can be a little bit confusing at first, but they do operate independently. So you could go to a MassHire in Cambridge, and they might be doing things very differently than we're doing them here at downtown Boston. At MassHire Downtown Boston, we are operated within a larger organization called JVS Boston, which is a workforce development agency. And our mission is to empower individuals from diverse communities to find employment and build careers while partnering with employers to hire, develop, and retain productive workforces. So in our session today, we are going to cover quick tips to help you craft an effective resume, write a cover letter, and prepare for interviews with confidence. And we do want to mention before we dive into all of this, that this is a very high level overview of best practices within these three categories. We have a lot of great webinars through MassHire Downtown Boston that go into a lot more detail about all of these topics and many more related to your job search. So we hope that you'll join us for those, and we're going to tell you more about how you can do that at the end of today's session. And I'm going to pass it to Catherine so she can start us off with resumes.
Everybody's favorite. So at its core, a resume is the story of your professional life. It is a quick glance. So that could be anything from what we talk about is, what have you done in the past that an employer is interested in? It's fact-based, and it is the best way to think of it, we say, is this: an employer is putting out a job opening. Hi, they don't know you. Hi, I am looking for this. These are the skills I need. This is my challenge. That's it. Very, very clear. Your answer is, this is me. These are all the great skills that I have to offer. Let's talk. So the resume, in a sense, is going to mirror the job role. So when you do, as we go into these next slides, think about the audience. Who's reading it, and how do you get them to look and go, because your ultimate goal is the interview. So then it becomes, what makes a good resume? Again, think about the audience. You want a clean format. You want to be something that's a consistent style all the way through, whether it's the font types that you take, to the sizing, to the most important information being at the top. I try to say to someone too, is that if you took an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and folded it in half, and all I could see is the top part, does that tell me who you are and what you can do for me, the employer? You want to be, that would include everything from your relevant skills. You want to use those verbs, those strong verbs like spearheaded, directed. Are there any specific results? Did your work, I looked to see Kwong was talking about, he's a director of operations in restaurant and hospitality. Was there anything that you did in your past position that's measurable, that you reduced maybe absenteeism by a certain amount, or you increased bookings in the restaurant by another amount? Adrian from Brighton, welcome. But these are the kinds of things. It's always a professional tone. It's concise. It's straight bullets, as you all know. No errors. Proofreading. From our partner employers, if they tell us anything that drives them absolutely crazy, it's the errors. The feeling is, catch your breath and do it, because if you're not paying us that much attention, this is the first thing I have to go on you because I don't know you. You want this to be perfect, and you always want to be able to have tailored keywords. What if you've never had a resume, Mark? We'll show you what goes into it. Good question.
And some of the important things to know here is that less is really more on these resumes. And you're going to see this when we talk about formatting and go into a little bit more detail, but really we're thinking about somewhere between 1 to 2 pages. And what we find a lot of the times is that people put in so much information that the important stuff gets lost. And the important stuff is your results. It's the impact of what you've done. So it's not just saying, these are the things that I can do and kind of listing all of those duties and responsibilities. It's talking about the impact of that. So maybe you increased sales by 20%. Maybe your idea was adopted on a larger scale. Maybe you were recognized as the go-to person on your team for something. Those things are always going to stand out more than just saying, these are the things that I can do. Because if you think about, let's say my resume versus Catherine's, we have a similar job, but our resumes should not look the same because my impact is different than hers. And that's how you can stand out. So the whole goal of the job search process is to stand out so that they can say, okay, this is the person I want to interview, this is the person I want to move forward, and this is the person I want to offer the job to. So in our session today, and as we talk about all of these different topics, a lot of this is going to be tips to help you stand out. Sometimes we get questions about, do I have to do this? Do I have to have specific results? Do I have to write a cover letter? No, you don't have to. There's nothing in the job search where it's like hard and fast, yes, I have to. But if it's going to help you stand out compared to other people, we want to encourage you to do it because it's going to increase your chances of getting better results in this process.
And before we jump to the next slide, one of the things that that you'll see on this particular list are tailored keywords. For some of you who aren't as familiar with it, is that if you were to take the job description, what did the employer list as the absolutely essential skills or approach or past experience that they feel is needed for it? So a keyword could be anything from, I need somebody with a master's in education. I need somebody that is proficient in Salesforce. I need somebody that was a contractor or financial services. I need you to have a Series 7, whatever that might be. I need somebody with great time management, complex calendaring. Those are the key words. And as we talk, the key words should be included in every single part of your resume. If you've used it, you want to be able to say it. Make it easier for the reader.
And I see a question, how do you optimize it for LinkedIn so recruiters and people searching find it? Yeah, so LinkedIn, there's a lot of overlap between your resume and LinkedIn, and there's also a lot of extra things that you want to think about on LinkedIn. So what I always suggest to people is to start with your resume, build out, especially in the experience section, these impact statements that we're talking about. So usually we talk about them as PAR statements, and that includes a problem, an action, and results. So you're telling a super short story within each one of these bullet points to show the impact that you've made in your previous positions. If you do that on your resume and you have 3 to 5, 3 to 6 bullet points within each job that has those details, and you've spent all of this time creating this great resume, these great bullets, what you can do is copy and paste the bullets from your resume to your LinkedIn. That's going to help you, again, show the impact that you can make. This is okay, you do these things, but so what? Why does this matter to me? Well, because I can increase sales by 20%. That's a big deal. Put those on your LinkedIn as well. And then again, similar to what Catherine was talking about with the keywords, think about how you can incorporate those keywords onto your LinkedIn profile, because that's what recruiters are really searching for on LinkedIn. They have their recruiter search and they're looking for those keywords to say, you're skilled in these areas. I need someone skilled in these areas. So that's going to be within your experience section, within your about section, within your skills section itself on LinkedIn. So there's kind of a lot of different ways to think about this and make sure you're incorporating throughout.
One thing also to add what Melissa has said, is that the employer doesn't know you at all yet. So the resume is the very first thing they have to go on. If you don't put in those kinds of specific results, those keywords, they have nothing to go on. You could be, let me pick Benita. But Benita could be the absolutely positively best person for this position. But if she doesn't tell me that experience, I can't look as deeply. So that's why when we talk about it's your professional story, think about the audience, add those details that pull me in and make me want to read. Okay.
And I see another question. How do you leverage non-official work experience for youth, young adults, such as supporting family, after school program, being a high school student? Yeah, so all of that is so important, especially for people who don't have as much direct work experience. So a lot of the things that we talk about when we talk about resumes is strategy. How are we going to strategically represent those things that are most important for that person? So for someone who doesn't have as much work experience or maybe doesn't have any, we're thinking about even something as simple as the order that we're presenting this on the resume. So some of those maybe leadership responsibilities in their education experience, or maybe they have an associate's degree and they took some courses that are relevant to the job that they're looking to do. Those are the things you want to highlight first on the resume, and then you want to expand upon them. So just as you would in the experience section, you're putting in those bullet points and you're talking about maybe courses that they took, maybe specific things that they did for their family or in their after school program. And anytime you can really highlight the leadership part of that, that makes a big difference, because it shows that they're really invested in this thing and they can take ownership, and it is a really good thing for employers to see right away.
Okay, so basically now it's all right. What we know what makes a good resume, what do we include? Now things have changed a bit since many of you have either like years ago on what we thought might have been included. It also could be is that if Andreas, and we'll get to yours exactly about an employer gap because it's very common. But at a minimum, what do you include on your resume? First and foremost, how do I get a hold of you? So that would be your first and last name. It would be usually city and town, like Boston, Mass, Greater Boston, anything like that. You would have a cell phone or some type of a phone that's easy to get a hold of you, that one that you'll pick up and has a professional message, and you would add in your LinkedIn URL if you do have a LinkedIn profile. If you're a creative, you might add in also maybe a quick connect to a portfolio that shows off your work. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, that's fine. We have some great webinars that can help you walk through it, but immediately that's what comes up. Okay. That's always usually at the top. Your summary is really a quick snapshot of who you are and what you can do for the employer. This replaces what we used to always call an objective. This isn't about what you want, it's about how you snapshot yourself for an employer. What then has to be included is your work history. What's your experience? Tell me a little bit about that. Are you a contractor? Are you somebody that's an instructor? How many people did you teach? Did you teach ESOL, or were you in an adjunct at a community college? All of that has value. Tell me your story. The other part too is your education. Education is in general, the formal education, meaning that you may have gotten your bachelor's degree from Boston University. You may have, like Carrie, she has a master's in education. All of that has incredible value. Those are the required categories. The optional categories and the ones that are exceptionally powerful on optional, you can pick and choose depending upon your experience, what should be included? First and foremost would be skills. If you're somebody that's going after a position that is creative or technical or medical and they need things, your skill set might include proficient in Epic, which is an industry standard platform used by many of the hospitals. Your other skills could be complex calendaring. You're the one that can manage everybody's life, whatever it might be. What did you do for professional development? What else have you gone to for, say, certificates or licenses? It might be something where if you were to work for a company like Stop and Shop, you were going to be a driver. I want to know if you have not just your CDL, but if you have any endorsements. All of that has value. What was asked before was that volunteer experience. Fantastic. Volunteer experience has so much value. It tells the reader a little bit about not just what interests you, but that you spent that extra time doing something. And what did you do? And that could be anything, by the way, from maybe once in a while you do an annual walk that benefits Spalding Rehab. It could also be that you're a member of your public library. It could be that you're part of the trustees of the reservation, whatever it is. But the volunteer experience is important. Honors and awards. Melissa and I were talking earlier. It's so often that we meet these terrific candidates and they forget just how good they are. We had a woman that was, I want to say she was Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I think worked there for a long time and he consistently received outstanding employee of the year, consistently got a gold award for her outstanding service. It's like, put it in. That really is a big deal. They don't just give it out. If you're somebody that might have been peer reviewed, maybe you've authored a publication. It could be something where you have a great blog. Put it in. Patents, and many, many more. But do you see how all of these now, some of you here may or may not you all come from different backgrounds. You may or may not include everything, but understand these are the categories that help tell your story.
And before we continue, there's another question about using AI, and unfortunately, we can't get into all the details because we have to keep this moving. But we do suggest going to our other webinars that we have at MassHire Downtown Boston because we go into a lot of detail about this. The short answer is that we recommend avoiding using AI to write or edit your job search materials. It creates a lot of issues, and we can tell you as people who see people's resumes every single day when we're advising clients, it's immediately obvious when someone has used AI to write their materials. When we're reading it, like our brains turn off because it's so generic. It just has this list of things kind of within sentences. It overuses the same words again and again, like deep, spearheaded, passionate, all of these things. It's just causes so many more issues. And I can tell you just really quickly, I recently helped a client redo her resume, and she had used AI and she wasn't getting any interviews. And immediately once we redid it, she started getting interviews. So write it in your words and make sure that you're avoiding that for that specific reason, and join us for other webinars for more info.
So as we talk about what to include on it, what not to include. So personal identifying information. Do not put your age, it's not needed. Do not put your birth date, it's not needed. Do not put your social security number, it is not needed. The resume is, if you think about it, it's really more of the marketing tool. Now, when you go to the online document, let's say that platform, let's say that you're applying for a position at Mass General Hospital, and there's certain things that may be asked. That's different, not on your resume. Okay, salary information, you don't have to list it at all. Personal social media links other than LinkedIn, nope. And on this one, we really caution to be careful. This is your professional snapshot, one for an employer. All of us have, different social media platforms we're involved in. They might be certain groups. It's not needed. And that's one we also say to be very careful about or thoughtful about how many people can see it. You have every right to your opinion, but every employer does not need to see everything other than LinkedIn. References available upon request. It's not needed. And you don't have to give out the names and contacts of references right away unless specifically asked for at that time, which is very, very rare. Photos or headshots, not needed. Yes, if you do have a LinkedIn profile, they may see this, but we mention this in particular because when you come to try to develop a resume, there are so many fantastic templates that are out there. They're absolutely beautiful, they're creative, they're all this, but they're not really industry standard. You don't need what's listed. And that's something we want you to be careful about. What we would say unprofessional fonts. It could be something where you don't usually see, some of you are older, remember Comic Sans, but it's that sort of not, we would call it unprofessional, meaning non-business. The resume is a business document. So you don't want to add in swirls or fonts that are either not going to show you to the best possible light or not going to be something that the employer's tracking system or applicant applying a system will pick up. And you do not need to list your religion or marital status.
And the reason why we go over this is because sometimes people have created a resume a long time ago and things change so fast, even, from a couple years ago until now, there are things that we're doing differently on the resumes. So some of this is just a little bit outdated. It was fine before and now we don't use it. Some of it is the fact that, especially at MassHire, we see a lot of people who are coming from other countries, and in a lot of other countries, they do this very differently. So some of this might seem obvious to some, and then for others, it's brand new information coming into the US for the first time. So just making sure that we're on the same page with these best practices.
Yep. So the other part would be, which when we talked about that on the previous slide, when like what would make a really good resume, again, thinking of your audience, you want it to look good, okay? So the margins, don't make them too far over, usually 0.6 to 0.8 inch margins around, that's perfect. The other thing that may not be mentioned here is that do not embed your contact information into the header of Word. All of it should be within that, the face of the document. When we talk about professional fonts, the easiest way to do it is start with Microsoft Word, the original Microsoft Word. It owns, believe us, they own the application process. These are some examples. If you like a sans serif font, Aptos, Arial, still okay. Lucinda Sans, Tahoma, all of these are great. If you're somebody that likes a serif font, something that's a little bit more graceful, Cambria is perfect and it's picked up all the time. Constantia, Century, all of that gets picked up. Why? It doesn't, these are the standard fonts that are built into Word. They do not have to be downloaded, because what happens is that when you apply to a company, smaller or large, you're assuming that their system can read these fonts. This is where those gorgeous templates that you may find even on Word, but some of the templates on Canva, they use fonts that aren't always recognizable. So what happens is that a system will turn around and say, oh, then I'll just replace the font with something I have. Makes sense, except it may goof up the whole thing. So it's something you really want to be aware of. And that does happen still, even if you have a PDF and upload it. The other part too is when you do the contact information, which we talked about at the top, and your summary, which is your career snapshot, just those few lines about who you are and what you can do, they can either be centered or left justified. All your other text should be left justified all the way down. Why? It's easier on the eye, and it's easier for when your information gets parsed to an employer, a recruiting person, or the direct hiring manager. And now I'll turn it over to Melissa for cover letters.
All right, so now we're going to talk about cover letters. So what makes a good cover letter? We want to start off with a personalized greeting. So we're thinking about trying to find the actual name of the hiring manager to address the letter to. A lot of people get really worried about this because it's often not listed in the job description, which is true. However, in the job description, there often is some kind of information. So it might say the person's title, this position reports to the director of admissions or whoever it is. If you have some kind of information, you can use it to go search for the person's name. So you might search on the company website, you might search on LinkedIn and try to get that information. If you cannot find the person's name, that's okay. We do want to mention that to whom it may concern is an outdated way of doing this. So we don't want to address it to whom it may concern. We want to use something more like dear hiring team or dear department name. If you know that you're applying to a certain department, you can put the department name in there. So always start trying to find the person's name. If you can't, use one of those other alternatives. We want to make sure that you're using an engaging opening. So this is not, please accept my application to X position. I found it on Indeed. I think I'm a great fit. That's what every cover letter says. And again, this is about standing out. We do not want you to blend in with all of the other people who are writing these boring cover letters. So use something more engaging that really talks about your professional mission or what you've been doing for the past 10 years within your organization, or why you're so motivated to do this type of work, or what draws you to this particular company. Make it into a real story where someone reads it and they think, I want to keep reading. We also want to make sure that within the entire cover letter, you're showing that you align with this role. So again, it's similar to what we talked about with the resume, where you need to understand what is important for this particular job at this particular company. And am I really communicating that I align with those things? That's going to be true of the role and the company. So this means that you're searching on the company's website, you're trying to figure out what is important to this company. Maybe they have a mission statement. Maybe they're talking about the purpose of their company or what kind of product or service they have. Thinking about what's important to them and then communicating that's also important to me really helps them see that you care about that company. And that's really important for the employer to see. One thing that we want to make sure to avoid in a cover letter is just summarizing your resume, because they've already read your resume and they don't want to just reread a summary within your cover letter. So this needs to set yourself apart from the resume by saying, this is how I approach my work. This is why I do what I do. These are specific achievements, and expanding on those achievements and providing examples and stories within the cover letter. It's not just about these are the things that I've done, but these are all of the other details. It kind of humanizes the whole thing because it's more of your story. They want to see who you are as a person and what you can bring. So the other piece of that is the clear value. So these are the things that I can really contribute to your organization. This is what I'm bringing. This is why I'm going to be a great hire. Again, we want this to be authentic in how you're writing this. So another great place to avoid AI, because AI can create the most generic cover letter that's not going to serve you at all. I've gotten to the point where I see this so much that I just say, if you're going to use AI, it's better just to not have a cover letter, because it's kind of wasting people's time. They're turning off their brain. It's not providing them any real information. So it is a tool that you can use kind of as a starting place. But if you do that, you have to do very heavy editing on it. You have to remove the AI voice, put in your voice, and put in your stories, because AI cannot write your stories. It can only write fiction. It can only take information and kind of list it out. So you have to be very, very careful with that. Also use concise structure. So this means you're thinking about, go back to high school or whenever you learned how to write essays and think about what is the main point that I want to get across. How can I outline that in the first paragraph and then expand on it in the other paragraphs? So usually when we think about a cover letter, we want to keep it to 1 page. We're thinking about somewhere between 4 and 5 paragraphs total. That includes the introduction, the closing paragraph. Those places are going to really highlight the company itself and what you know about that company and how you're going to fit in with that company, why that's important to you. And then the body paragraphs are expanding more on your story, your specific examples that you want to show, how you approach your work, and why you do this work.
Another thing to think about, one, are cover letters important? Yes. We get that from our partner employers. 2, what we say is this: the resume is data driven. It's really, really clear, right? You don't have a tone in it. Cover letters, you do. So this is giving the reader this is the vehicle that gives the reader, which is the hiring manager, the owner of the company, the supervisor, whomever it is, a better understanding of you, the person. This is where you can come out. Up until now, they don't know you, but this is a way so that they can. So if you think of it like that, it's a lot less intimidating.
All right, so what should you include in your cover letter? A bit that I touched on already, but thinking about your story. So this might be an overview of your career, who you are, what you're best at, and why you do what you do. So when we say your story, we're talking about professionally. So thinking about your career path and what that has looked like for you. Professional achievements or accomplishments that demonstrate the value you can bring to the company. So again, this is where we're kind of expanding on things that might be touched on in the resume, but you can really tell them in a more full story within your cover letter. Details about why you're applying for this position. So excitement for this position at this company. And most of the time, when we run our webinars, we're talking to an audience of people who are unemployed. And a lot of the times that audience says, I need a job. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter where it is. And that's valid. We definitely understand that. At the same time, we always want to take the perspective of the employer. And the employer really does care that you care about this particular job and this particular company. And we can give you a lot of stories, just even personally being on the hiring team for MassHire, about when we have chosen candidates to move forward or to hire because they were specifically excited about this company, because they did their research, they knew about what we do, who we serve, why this is important, and they made that connection. So don't underestimate this, because it really does matter to the employer. You also want to mention how you found out about the job. And this is especially true if you have a network connection or an internal referral. So if you do come to our other webinars, you'll hear us talk about networking a lot, because this is one of the biggest, most important, and most underestimated parts of the job search. People get jobs because they know people. So if you know someone, call that out in your cover letter. What not to include. Generic openings. So we already talked about how we want this to be engaging. If you started off with something super generic, chances are they might not read the rest of it. So make sure whatever you're leading with is something that captures their attention and makes them want to continue reading. Vague statements, cliche or overused phrases. So again, those things often are a result of AI language or things that are just really not adding value here. So we want to be able to expand and provide real details and real stories within the cover letter. We don't want to repeat statements from your resume. So sometimes people will think, oh, I should have kind of a paragraph about what I do, and then I should have the bullet points that take them from my resume and show those most important things. No, they already read your resume. Most of the time when they're going through applications, they start with your resume. If they see what they're looking for and they want more information, they might then go read your cover letter. So keep that in mind here. They've already read the resume. They don't want to see repeat. So you want to make sure that you're communicating something more. What do you actually want to say that you didn't get a chance to say in your resume? Irrelevant information. So I know there was a question in the chat, should I add previous experience not added to my resume? There's a reason why you didn't add it to your resume. It's probably not relevant for that particular job. So we don't want to add it into the cover letter either. We want to be really intentional to include just the most important information that's going to align with this job and this company. Again, similar to the resume, we don't ever want to include salary information in the cover letter. In the state of Massachusetts, it is not legal for an employer to ask you about your previous salary, and that's true of all steps in the process, from the application to the interview. So just for your knowledge, you never have to provide that, and usually it's not a great idea to do so anyway. So you want to just make sure to avoid that. And then negative tone. So we always want to approach all of this as positively as possible, even if something was negative. You know, I tend to think about this in terms of the interview process, and we're going to talk about this here in a second. But if you were let go from a job, if you were laid off, if there was some issue, there's a lot of negative things that can come up. Even so, we want to try to make it as positive as possible when we're communicating about it. So that's going to be true of all of these steps in the process. Formatting your cover letter is going to be very similar to how we talked about formatting your resume. So you'll have this to come back to in reference when you get the slides and the recording later this week. So just make sure that you're following these best practices for your cover letter.
So now we get to the best part, the interviews. Now, we'll joke because the goal of your resume is to get the interview, to get that human to human connection that says, gee, we went through all of these fantastic candidates, and you know what? Maria, I just think you sound exactly what we think we might need. Okay. One thing we would already say, going into interviews is hard. They already like you. They already like you. That's why they pulled you in. Now it's up to you for the practice. And you really, anybody that comes in without the practice, you are simply just, in a good strategy, you are just not putting yourself forward. We all get nervous. Somebody like me, I'll just keep chattering. Somebody else I have as a client will immediately not say a word. So we hope that these are what makes a good interview. Okay, first and foremost, professional attire. Now, that doesn't always mean a suit and jacket. It doesn't always mean a full dress with jewelry. However, what it does mean is that whether you're in person and on Zoom, that through your research, that whatever it is that you present, that it fits the culture of the company. If you're somebody, for example, that is in, say, software development, you're a creative, maybe it's a polo shirt or a t-shirt is perfectly fine, but you don't want to pick your absolute favorite t-shirt that has been from college, that is just screaming for mercy for you to just not wear it again. Like, just think about the audience. Positive demeanor. You're excited. You want them to be excited too. The positive demeanor also connects you with the people that are meeting you. Now, this could be positive demeanor, could be even on through a phone screen. People like to work with people that they like. They want to be able to say, this person will be a great addition for my team. My patients will like them. I could totally see my clients connecting. That's what they're talking about. That's the kind of rapport. It is a professional conversation, but it's always human to human. The other thing what you want to do is to be able to give clear answers, whatever the question may be. It could be something you could have, which would be maybe a traditional question. Tell me about yourself. That one people actually struggle with, but that's not a question to trip you. What it is really an opening. But it does take practice because what they're asking, tell me about yourself, is your professional background. Um, quickly and how it affects them. Because again, think of the audience. They're going to look for the relevant examples. It could be something where I am looking for a client relations executive. So somebody that I may interview, I'll just pick Ed. Right, you're my person for today. It could be something like, yes, that is something I've done for the last 20 years. I've always worked in this field. One of the things I'm always known for is not just making all of my um, key goals, exceeding the goals for the end of the year. I'm the person that really has the top ability to retain clients, which is great. So not only do you grow it and retain it, that's telling me prepared questions. What you want to do is to be able to understand what are the questions that might be asked. You're going to have traditional questions. You're going to have behavioral questions, meaning what is it that the employer could anticipate that might be how you would approach a problem. And you also have situationals. Those are the what ifs. Again, we have a great workshop on it. There's really for the 12 core questions and what the employer is looking for. Rarely, they are not looking to trip you up, but they are want to get to know you. Confidence. Have your confidence. You all have so much to give. You have so many great skills. You have so much to offer. Believe in yourself because they do. They've already picked you. And you want to be authentic. It's so easy. Like right now, we're not really, as Melissa put, we usually deal with overwhelmingly deal with people that really need to leave the position they're in now or got caught in a layoff and need to find work. So it's very easy to say, oh, I just need to grab anything. Careful, because when you're authentic, so is the person that you're speaking with. In a sense, you're interviewing them too, because you want to be sure that this is exactly the challenge that you'll excel in, that the compensation is what you may need, that this is the perfect work-life balance that you and your family have been looking for. When you're authentic and have done all that research, you are 1,000 times more likely to be picking the right role and to be hired for the right role, that you excel and that you feel good every day as you get back on track and back into your career. The other part's the thank you note. Yes, it matters. So how do you prepare for an interview? First and foremost, you research the employer. Where do you find the employer research? LinkedIn. You find it on the Boston Globe. You find it on things like Glassdoor, where other former and current people that work there have listed, yeah, it's a great place to work, or not so much. You also want to look for other trade organizations, and you might also want to be able to take a look at LinkedIn. There are certain people that have already worked for the company. Within your network, you may find it too. Find out about them. For somebody like us, we're hiring right now at MassHire downtown Boston for some key roles. I am shamelessly plugging. I also know that the treasurer's office, Deb Goldberg, also has some fantastic openings. Do the research. Reach out for somebody. What do you think? What do you hear? Research, that's the interviewers as well. When you're called for the interview, it could be questioned like, oh, that's wonderful. Who is it that I'll meet with? Get down their names, do their research, usually on their website, through LinkedIn, but so you have a better idea. And it's something like, oh, you might be missing, doing, let me see, you'll be meeting with Lima. That's our manager of marketing. And you might also be meeting with Tessa, who is our CFO, whatever it might be, so that you're actually able to prepare your questions and build that much more confidence. Connect the dots, review the job description. Why are you such a great fit? The job description is always going to be set up in order of importance. Hi, this is who we are. This is the type of a person or a challenge, the person we're looking for. These are the approach this is the approach we want. This is the minimum skills that we need in order of importance. And then they also may list preferred skills. read through it and see how you're a fit. And practice your answers. You can set up a one-on-one with career navigators like Melissa or myself, or at any of the other MassHires. These people are great. We have just all of us are here to help you as best we can to get you back on track and into a great new career. But you have got to prepare your answers. We had a client recently that was up for a great position, actually. And Melissa was essential in helping them. One of the things in the job description, as we talked about with keywords earlier, was data analysis. Now, this particular candidate didn't have a ton of experience in it, but had some. So through that practice, 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 come up with some ideas, this part worked out great. And then what happened was, thank goodness they did, because the client was then faced with not just a question on data analysis, but hi, give me an example about what you may do for qualitative and quantitative things. Please tell me the result of. Without practice, it would be so easy for that great candidate to have been thrown off her balance. But through practice, that's what's going to give you confidence. Here's what you don't want to do during an interview. And look, we all know that people leave jobs for a lot of different reasons. Don't talk negatively about anyone. Many people have to leave their positions because of toxic managers. You might have to because you got caught into a buyout, all of that. It's very easy to say and practice words like, yes, unfortunately, I worked for, I'm going to just pick any company. I worked for Rockland Trust. Our branch closed, and unfortunately, I got caught in a layoff. But it did give me the time to really think thoughtfully about what type of role did I want to work in, what type of environment, what did I want in my manager's role, or how the team's approach might be. Don't rely on your great conversational skills. Truly, there are very, very few people. Oftentimes, some of you in sales have a gift for it. Very few don't. Don't discuss irrelevant information. That practice ahead of time will keep you tight, and importantly, will allow that rapport that you want to develop with this manager, with this recruiter. They're the cheerleaders of the organization, and they make the decision to pass you on, to go forward. You don't have to go into unnecessary details, and don't give the vague answers. Go back to what Melissa had talked about with the PAR statements. If somebody were to ask, tell me about a time when, oh, think back on PAR. What was the problem or the challenge? What was the action that you took, even as part of the team? And what was the result because of your actions? If you keep that framework, we promise answering all these questions really will really highlight all the great stuff you've done. Don't directly ask about salary and benefits in the very first part of an interview. If you're pushed, you can always certainly say something like, I'm really looking at the overall compensation package. I'm right now looking for a great, perhaps in your case, a work-life balance, or I'm more concerned on, I looked at your firm because of the mission-driven part of it, and I'd like to hear more about all of it. There's very few times that you do have to find out right away, but salaries, but push that off. Benefits are oftentimes listed on the website, and you can ask that in a follow-up interview. Don't expect a job offer at the first interview. Now, we'd hire you all. However, really, you expect probably about three. One about the phone screening to invite you in. The second would be either maybe a panel discussion or a one-on-one. And then there's usually a third right after that. Okay. So let's just say you went through all of it and you just really were fabulous. You nailed it. So it's like, I'm done, right? Nope. You have to write a great thank you note. Again, it goes back into the cover letter where you have a chance to end the experience in the most positive way. It gives them a chance to again see how engaged you were and for you, the person. Keep it short, just a couple of paragraphs at most. Customize it based on your conversation. If you were in a meeting, and you were able to say, it was a pleasure to meet you all. It was one of the reasons I was looking at working for the MBTA in this unit was because I just really find that access is so important. And meeting your team, I can tell how committed you all are. It was really refreshing. That's something that may come out. Demonstrate your value. In some cases, you may want to attach a sample of your work. Hi, it was a pleasure to meet you all at HubSpot. I loved what you talked about, whatever it might be. I was giving some thought to the challenge that you talked about with this particular client. Maybe there's a sample of your work. It could be something else. It could be that here's the link to a paper I published, whatever it might be. Mention an idea that you have, whatever you think, and then tie it back to why you're a great fit for that role. All of that research, all of it going forward, you can't help but be the best possible person.
All right, so hopefully we've given you kind of an overview of best practices here on resumes, cover letters, and interviewing. And like we mentioned, we go into a lot more detail about this in our other webinars. We have a lot of other services also through our Career Center that are available to Career Center members. So we're going to tell you how you can become a member so you can take advantage of these, because once you're a member, everything is free. It is free for everyone in the state of Massachusetts to become a member of MassHire, and you can utilize services from any MassHire location. So we do have one-on-one career coaching. They're free 30-minute single session appointments that are available to our members, which are available both on site at our office in downtown Boston and virtually over Zoom. We have webinars every day on all of the topics that we went through today and many others. We have hiring events. There's an employer panel coming up this week, and we have those typically at least once a month, some kind of event with our employer partners. Our job is not to get people jobs. We help you with the resources and the information that you need to go out and be successful in your job search. So I just want to make that clear up front. We're not a recruiting agency. We're not a job placement agency. We don't place people into positions, but we have a lot of great resources and advice and guidance that we can help you with. We have a website that you can check out that also has a job board that features jobs from our employer partners. We have specific services for young adults between the ages of 18 and 24. That is specific to Boston residents. I know many of you mentioned you are Boston residents, so you may be able to take advantage of that. We also have some job training information, and we have some grant funding specifically for Boston residents. We have some great financial education, including webinars and one-on-one coaching. And I know that Carrie's going to talk a little bit about her financial education through her office as well. So there's a lot of different ways you can take advantage of this. I'm going to put a link in the chat here to our website, to our Become a Member page, so you can get all of the information you need on how to become a member of MassHire. There's going to be 2 steps that you'll see on this webpage that I just linked in the chat. So you're going to start by registering on JobQuest. For some of you who may already be registered on JobQuest, if you have your 8-digit job seeker ID, that will allow you to take advantage of any of the services and events at any MassHire Career Center around the state. So you're going to use that ID when you go to register. For example, for our webinars, for our coaching, for any of our other events, make sure you have that ID. If you don't have an active job seeker ID, you won't be able to take advantage of these services. So this is how you can register and get one of those IDs. All of that's going to be available on our website. But of course, if you run into any issues or need help with that, you can contact our office and we can help you as well. Catherine, did you have anything to add here?
Yes, I wanted to say what an absolute pleasure it was. All of you have just been so great. We really appreciate all of these fantastic questions that you shared. You were just vibrant, wonderful. You kept us on our toes, which we wanted, and we truly hope that you can take something out of what we presented today. And it was our pleasure, actually, to be able to join the Office of Treasurer Deb Goldberg and all the other great people in Carrie's division. Oh, you're welcome, guys. Thank you. Um, we've all been in your shoes. We know what it's like, how hard it is to get caught in a layoff, all of us at MassHire, downtown Boston. And we're here to help you to the very best we can to get you back on track and into a great new career.
And I think we're going to pass it back to Carrie to do a few last announcements. So thank you all again for having us. And I'll let Carrie take over.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you so much, Catherine. Really great information today. And I agree, the chat was active, so people are really engaged in this topic is really important. So I'm glad we had this time today. MassHire certainly has great resources. So in the email that we'll send out from the Office of Economic Empowerment, there will be additional information from MassHire to connect with them. Just a couple of things to share before we end today. So as part of Worth and Wealth, we have access to free financial coaching with Oriana Felkowski. This will also be in the email, so do not fret. We will get this information to you as well. If you can't grab that QR code, you'll have it there. It's up to an hour of free coaching with a financial coach, with an accredited financial coach. Next week, our last workshop in the Worth and Wealth webinar series is going to be on scam and fraud prevention. So if that is of interest to you, it happens to me at least once a week in my email, or not, I shouldn't say happens to me, it attempts to happen to me. And that's why the prevention conversation is so important. So again, this will be in the follow-up email, but if you are interested in registering, please do so, please join us. Everybody in Massachusetts has access to our free financial education digital platform. It's called Enrich. Everyone can sign up. There are great tools in there for budgeting. There's scholarship information. There's kind of a mindfulness aspect about how we feel about money, how we interact with money. So please take advantage of that and share it. When you do receive the email, we talked about the recording of the video today, the presentation with so much great information. Please share it with everybody in your friend group, in your family. Please share that email and those resources. Lastly, when you leave today, and for those who have already left know this, but when you leave our webinar today, a quick survey is going to pop up. This information is really helpful for the Office of Economic Empowerment to think about future programming, what topics resonate with you and what people are looking for. So if you do have a moment, please fill out that very brief survey. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Melissa. Truly grateful for your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hope to see you again. When you do get the recording, we have several series as well of previous workshops that we've been able to offer. So hope you can join us. Thank you, everybody.